Alright, you start this one shot in a small tavern outside the city, near farmlands that grow great sort of amounts of this long flax like stalk of this sort of stalked crop that is used to make clothing. It's a lot like cotton, except the strands are like really long. There are a couple of wheat fields, but there's a lot of farmland outside the city, and you are finding yourself in an inn called the Bristling Boar. It is a fairly sizable inn, 2 stories. The first story being a simple common area, and the second story being lodging for travelers. It's about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, couple of hours before the rush begins, when people start trying to make their way inside, make their way into the Bristling Boar to hopefully get a room for the night. There is a large boar's head taxidermy above a fireplace that has almost seems to snarl whenever anyone walks past. Beneath it, there is a low fire that burns, filling the general area with a small amount of warmth. Next to it sits an old man. He is wearing, like, they look like old-timey sort of sunglasses. The lens are blackened. You can just barely make out that the light of the fire glints in it, catching, almost sort of projecting like 2 cat's eyes, staring out from away from his elderly, sort of wizened, crinkled face. He carries a cane that also catches the light. The top of it is a blue cat's eye jewel, and almost look like there are 3 eyes staring at you back from the darkened corner. He gets up and limps over to the fire, tosses another sort of log in, and he uses his cane to stoke the fire higher, and it grows a little bit, and as the light grows, again, it looks like his eyes, his glasses and the cane catch light once even more, like glinting even more. Your eyes are pulled away from him as there are 3 men off to the corner of the bar. You hear them laughing sort of raucously. One of them appears to have told a rather dirty joke, as you can just barely make out the last of it. He says, that's the only clam I ever put my ear where I could smell the ocean. And they sort of pat each other on the back and just ridiculous jokes, and sort of laugh loudly at their own sort of raucous behavior. They lift up a couple of beers and down them. They appear to be farmers, farmhands of some sort, that have the day off. Behind the bar there is a well-dressed, well-kept dwarf. This dwarven bartender is Basilicus Stoutbarrel. He wears a pristine apron and looks on at the group with a look of disdain in his eyes, just sort of shaking his head. He sighs and turns to you and says, "Anything to drink?"
You cut out.
He turns to you and says, "Anything to drink?"
I'm kind of clearly side-eyeing the boar's head. And I'm kind of sitting so that I'm always looking at it. But I'll have an ale.
Alright, what ale? What ale?
As well.
2 ales. He turns his back to the bar and or to you and goes behind the bar, picking up 2 pristine pewter tankards. He fills them high with frothing ale head comes to the top, and he hands each of you. He says, "It's on the house today, friends." He looks over the group.
Thank you.
He's absolutely no problem, friends. As he is handing you the drink, the door sort of to the Bristling Boar slams open, and in the doorway you can see a relatively young man, probably in his mid-20s to late 20s, somewhere around that time. But he looks, he comes in and he looks haggard as he goes to the one end of the bar, farthest away from everyone. He has sunken eyes and great bags underneath him, as if he has not gotten enough sleep. He sort of twitches a little bit nervously as he sits down, and he puts his head sort of down in his hands, sort of facing the bar. And he sits like that for a moment, and you see the three guys, the three sort of assholes in the corner. One of them, they all three glance at each other, and one of them reaches beneath the table, and he puts like what looks like a burlap sack cloth on his head, and he starts sort of tiptoeing towards the man who who came in and sat down with his head in his hands, and he yells, "Oh, I've come to get you, DeVry!" And the man just falls off his stool, twitching nervously as all the three men sort of break into raucous laughter. And he yanks the sackcloth off of his head and says, "What's wrong, DeVry? You think the scarecrows are gonna come get you in here? Oh, Looney, Lucy, and DeVry think of the scarecrows are walking towards his house at night." And as they break out into laughter, Lucien DeVry says, "It's not funny. I'm not crazy. I'm not crazy." As he stands up and he takes a swing at him, but the guy just sort of dances back out of his reach and goes back to his group, saying, "Maybe you get a little more sleep, Lucien. You'll catch me next time." The bartender Basilicus sighs and pours a drink and hands it to Lucien. Lucien sits at the chair, sort of his head in his hand, saying, "I'm not crazy." Basilicus, the bartender, shakes his head, and he comes back to you. He tops off your drinks and says, "It's unfortunate. He used to be a rather young, striking lad. Now look at him. Barely a shell of what he was."
What's he saying about scarecrows?
Oh, well, for the past couple weeks, Lucian's been saying that the scarecrows have been coming towards his house in the night.
Like, I mean, are they actually closer in the morning? Has anyone seen that?
As far as I can tell, he's the only one that's ever seen it. I've never been out there to see it myself. He tried to hire some people to help, but they just said he was crazy. I mean, you'll have to talk to him about that, but I'll tell you what. If you help him, there might be some coin in it.
My eyes kind of light up, and I just get up with my drink and just walk right over to the guy. If that doesn't beat, as soon as he says coin, I'm fucking moving.
I'll follow.
You move to two sides of Lucien DeVry. As Basilicus said, he probably at one time was quite a striking figure. Even in his current state, he is somewhat handsome, although his skin has taken on a slightly grayish pallor. His cheeks are sunken in, and he has heavy bags under his eyes. As soon as you sit down, he jumps, almost taking a step back, looking like he's ready to fight. He just says, "What, you think you're going to scare me as well? You think it's funny like the rest of them?"
I'm just playing about scarecrows.
Well, that's true. Well,
what's your problem with these guys?
They think it's so funny. They think I'm crazy. But I'm telling you, I've seen it every night. The scarecrows.
I know what that feels like.
In the fields. I'll look out in the morning, and they're closer. At first, it wasn't noticeable. Maybe a foot, maybe 2 feet. But then one morning I woke up and they were 20 feet closer. And then the next morning they were nearly at the house. I thought it was kids playing pranks. You know how they are. They're not supposed to go out at night because they might get killed, but well, kids are stupid like that. But then I burned the scarecrows. I burned every last one of them. And then when I woke up in the morning, they were there. They were there. 1 foot closer. 2 feet closer.
Are there stake holes?
There are.
Well,
Now, those holes aren't being dragged to the dirt, are they?
No, not as far as I can tell. In fact, there wasn't. The original stake holes were there, but once they were, well, on their way, I never found any other ones. None of the new ones. It's like they were floating on air towards us.
well, if you don't mind putting me up for the night, I'd be willing to stay and take a look.
Yeah, we're gonna have a stakeout.
Well,
Haha.
that's something I could absolutely do. I'm not a man with much coin. I wouldn't have anything to pay you, but I do well enough. I've got a fine, comfortable home, although it's small, and I've got good food. I would be more than happy to put you up for the night and to see you're well fed for your troubles. At that point, the old man in the corner sort of leans forward and says, Lucien the Free, you don't have to worry about paying for them. If these fine gentlemen can help you, then I am more than happy to give each of them 25 gold pieces. And he raises his glass to the two of you, says, you help this man, and I assure you, you will be paid.
Do I know who that man is?
You can roll a history check.
Alright.
I will roll one as well if this doesn't work out. Let's see. Damn it, character sheet.
6.
I'd not do any better.
You don't spend that much time at the Bristling Boar. You've never seen him around too often. You've seen him sort of around the area before, but only in passing. You certainly don't know his name or anything like that.
I'll just raise my beer to him since I don't really know who he is. Say, that would be very kind.
And don't disappoint me, friends. With that, he sort of leans back farther into the darkness. The light sort of catches his glasses, smiling. He takes a sip of his beer and leans back against the warmth of the fire. Lucien stands up and says, well, it gets dark early in Fogcastle. We might want to go ahead and head home. And he turns and leads you out the door. The walk to the farm is fairly pleasant. It's not particularly hot, and it's not particularly cold. It's just a nice, cool afternoon. You can tell it's going to be a chilly night, but at the moment, everything is perfectly pleasant, with even the sun making a brief appearance to pierce through the normally overcast skies. Oh yeah, let me go ahead and put the tokens on the map for you. Whoop. The man sort of pays sort of common courtesies, like, what are you doing in Fogcastle? What brings you here? And usually that's not the right button. Usually people don't enjoy their time in this place, and they're certainly not happy to be stuck here.
Well, you're right about that. I wouldn't be here without the money.
Let's see.
I'm a mover of goods.
And I'm more just a mover.
Well, if you're able to help me, I don't care what you do. I'll appreciate it nonetheless. Let me go ahead. Alright, everyone should have control of their tokens.
I just see a black screen.
Yeah,
Oh,
me too.
okay, hold on. Let me see.
Nah, as soon as... Come on. Come on. There it goes. Trying to do it all in one frame.
Let me turn on. Where is?
Let me try this. There. Nope. Not works.
That's weird. Go to here.
Ooh. Oh, is it still doing that perspective thing?
Yeah.
Nice. Oh, I guess go ahead and throw another token on there if I have a bird.
Yeah, you've got the crow, right?
Yep.
Yeah, crow token's right next to you.
Oh, okay.
The crow.
I thought that was another guy.
Let me let me go ahead and get rid of.
Brandon Lee.
Go to here.
Oh, that's cool. I don't even get his vision. That's fucking sweet.
Aw.
That's awesome.
Alrighty. He leads you to his farm. It is a wheat farm. The stalks rise maybe 5 feet into the air. It's fairly sizable as well. Looking across it, you can see it is a simple, relatively small farmhouse with a stable to the back. There's a horse that is milling about outside it, sort of lazily munching at a large bale of hay. The fields themselves are empty. You see no scarecrows, but down here... Let me go to the right thing. Down around here, there is a large burn pile, and you can make out what looks like the sort of sackcloth forms of several scarecrows that have been burnt.
Can I walk up to them?
Yes. Well, approaching the pile, you can see it looks... it's fairly sizable, and it's still warm. It's still smoldering, because you can smell the smoke as it rises to the air. Lucien does not even look at it. He keeps his eyes downcast, almost completely averting his gaze nervously from it as he continues heading towards the house.
Can I examine them?
Roll an investigation
Closer,
check.
like-
Yep.
Yeah, I'm trying to check and see if Ranger has like some sort of tech magic or something like that, but I can't get 5 VTOLs to fucking...
That is a 20.
Alright. Within this... There we go. Within this pile, you can discern pretty easily that there were about 6 that were burned here. You can make out each of their sackcloth faces, a crude visage drawn upon it, some sort of strange, smiling horror that looks back at you from this burn pile. As you sort of poke the sort of things to the side, pushing away burnt cloth and burnt straw, you find 6 stones that are scattered about it, and upon these stones there are some strange markings, almost appearing to be arcane runes that have been carved onto them.
I am proficient in Arcana.
Alright. You can make an Arcana check on the stones. Unsure what exactly, not even sure what school of magic they were, but clearly they were magical. However, you don't sense any magic coming off of them now.
Okay. Can I pick them up?
Just sure.
And I'll take one of the stones over to, is it Lucy?
Yep. You head towards the inside of the house. Let me see here. Heading inside the house, Lucian stands by the fire over here. I guess I should get a farmer real fast. Oop. Just get a, there's gotta be just a generic man. Wow, jeez. Screw it. Downsfolk. This guy. That guy right there. He'll be Lucian.
Okay.
He's standing at the fire, currently stoking it up.
I'll walk up to him and say, Lucian, have you ever seen one of these before?
He looks at them and he says, well, yeah, I've seen a couple of them. Seen a couple of them around the farm before, but you know, I never thought they meant much of anything. I thought it was something the kids were throwing at the house. Wouldn't be the first time I had a rock go in through the window.
I found these in the pile of burned scarecrows. Just thought it was interesting.
Well, what do you think it means?
Oh, there's one for each scarecrow.
You know, I never looked that close whenever I burned the last ones. You know, maybe there were more on them. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm wondering if these aren't linked to the scarecrow.
Well,
Do you always burn them next to the house?
well,
And then they appear back out in the field?
not always right in that spot, but I usually burn them pretty close.
Okay.
I don't want to burn them too
Making sure
close to the fields. I certainly don't want the fields catching on fire.
Where do you find them?
Uh,
I asked from the point meaning, like, where exactly in the field did you last see them before you burned them?
well, they were far out, probably, you know, a couple 100 feet. Whenever I first seen them at the night, and then by the time it gets to be morning, they're standing right up here in the clearing near the well. Sometimes even a little bit closer, near the door.
Do they appear in the same spot every?
Well, that's the thing, no. It's not like they're following a set path. Sometimes they end up on different sides of the house even. I've had a couple of them show up behind the house, even though I sure as hell don't have any scarecrows or fields back that way.
And they never try to come in, but they'll pass.
Well, that's what I get worried about, you see. They've never gotten close. They've never tried to get in, but I don't know if it's because they've never gotten close enough. I mean, at first they used to only move a foot, and then they kept moving closer and closer, and that's when I started burning them.
Interesting. Hold on. What is your character?
Mine? Dirk.
Why don't we go poke around the field and see if we? And I toss it to you and I say, see if we find any more.
Good idea. I take the stone. I go outside. I point out the stone to the crow and ask him to, fly out, keep an eye out for something like that.
As you head out the door, you hear Lucian sort of calls behind you. You be careful now. Don't stay out too late. It's starting to get dark. And indeed, he is right. The sun has started to set. Right, it's rapidly beginning to set. The sky turning a sort of fiery orange as you head out into the fields to inspect. There are 3 fields. Obviously, you can see there's one off this way, one off in that direction up here, and one off that direction down there. Each of them is extremely sizable, extending several hundred feet away from the farm. Beyond the fields, there is it appears to be a light forest, like a light tree line. It looks like he's butted up right up against the forest. And there is already a faint mist that is beginning to descend into the air. But which fields would y'all like to start with?
What's your guy's name?
Lokshun?
Lokshun. Do you think we should split up? I mean, I can take one. I can take west. You take east. Bird takes north. Or do you want to stick together?
As long as we move quickly, we could split.
All right.
Don't wanna be out here at night. Before I go to this right field, can I take the other 5 stones from this pile and put them like right here?
Sure. You can head to the point. Each stone is, roughly the size of maybe like a walnut. Not terribly sizable. You're easily able to gather them all up and sort of gather them at the front of the building.
Okay, I just kind of I want to make sure they're clearly visible in front of these windows. And then I'm gonna go out in the field.
All right. Everyone make a perception check as you begin pushing through the high stalks of wheat, taking your time, being careful, sort of trying to see anything that is out of place. Except for Bird. Bird flies above it.
Alright, I'll do one for me, one for Bird.
Yep.
I got a 7.
Let's see what I get. What do you get? Alright. Bird gets 15. And if I can stop fucking moving my character sheet from the screen. Perception plus 4. I got an unnatural 20.
Alright.
So 15 and 20.
Where is my... what was your character's name? You're Dirk, right? And
Yeah, Dirk.
And Lao Shu? Lokshun. I'm surprised I actually got pretty close to it the first try.
Right?
Lokshun, it's an extremely dense field, and there's not too much to see. You're doing your best, sort of trying to part the ways, but there's so much field to cover. Towards the back of the field, you do come across the stake hole that the scarecrow was in. It's about 300 feet from the building, towards the back end of the field. But that's all you see as you're looking around the stake hole. Nothing seems particularly amiss. It seems like just an absolutely standard stake hole that you would like put a scarecrow stake in.
Okay.
Dirk, you pretty quickly locate this hole as well. However, you're able to better discern that the area around the stake hole, the sort of wheat around it, has been slightly disturbed, and you can, as you're looking at it, you can just barely make out a faint path, as if something had been moving through the wheat towards the house. Probably no more than a day or two old.
Direction that it was moving.
It was moving from the stake. And you're pretty sure that you're pretty sure something. He's not crazy. Something on this stake that was here sometime within the last day was moving towards his house.
But that same movement, like the bent wheat, is only going in one direction from the mound. Like nobody walked through the mound to the mound and then continued down that path.
Nope.
All right.
Your crow, Bran Stark,
No, Brandon Lee.
He soars above head, and he lets out a caw, caw, as towards the back of he's circling towards the back of his field. Actually, right at the tree line where the field and the tree meets. Sort of trying to get your attention to come inspect it.
All right, I make my way over to the bird.
Below him, just within the line of the trees, you see, roll a, well, good enough perception check. I'll keep the same perception check. It looks like there is a small indentation within the trees, like an area where a fire has been lit, within the last day or two. Just very small, an extremely small fire.
All right, I call for Lokshun to come with us before we investigate the trees.
Alright, I will follow.
All right, so we've got a fire down there. I'm gonna go check that out.
Okay.
Roll investigation checks.
All right.
Non-natural 20.
17.
The fire is no more than a couple days old. It is cold, but it is relatively recently. Looking about the area, you can see it has been cleared slightly, and you got a 20.
Yeah.
With a 20, you do see that there is a relatively large pine tree right at the edge of the field, and as you move towards it, you can see there are indentations behind it, as if someone had been standing behind it watching the farm. 2 large indentations and a single small indentation.
Like, stake indentations? Or, like, somebody with a walking stick? Or...
Potentially a stake. It's not particularly deep.
And the other ones are feet? Or are they just, like, squared?
They look like they could be feet. They are larger.
Hey, look. Somebody's been standing here. Maybe we ask Lucian if this is like a spot.
That is a good idea. Plus, it is getting dark. We should be heading back to the farmhouse.
It has indeed gotten quite dark. Their last vestiges of the sun are sort of there. The fiery oranges are gone, now giving way to a beautiful velvety blue, turning to an inky black as the stars are beginning to pop out, twinkling above you.
I don't see any scarecrows.
There are no scarecrows.
I start rushing.
On our way back, do we see the stones that he put out front?
Yes, they remain in the same place.
Okay.
Maybe drop yours there too.
Yeah. I put mine, like, I guess right by the well while I was there. Bird perch.
Can your bird, like, listen to commands, or
I can give it commands and it can understand them.
could it like croak if it sees scarecrows?
Yeah, I go to my bird and I tell him, alright, now, we've got a... It's not a safe word, this isn't like dominatrix shit. What's the word? The code word is caw. If you see scarecrows, caw.
Alright. It sort of goes, caw! But this one seems to be more a confirmation that it will caw.
Right. One for yes, 2 for no.
You head inside. The house is filled with a delicious smell. Lucian is as good as his word. While he is a humble farmer and living alone in a small house, he does have fine food. And he has a large stew pot above the fire that is bubbling away with something that smells delicious, faintly of surprisingly spicy. It's got a surprisingly pungent aroma. He has laid out a platter on the table, and there is a fairly sizable cut of meat on it. And he says, if you want to wash up, there's a pump out back, or you can go to the well, but dinner will be ready in just a couple of moments. And he goes about his business, finishing it up. As you sort of keep an eye out, sort of looking out the windows. This is one of the things that dynamic lighting is pretty cool for.
Yeah.
But he finishes up his preparations with a bit of a flourish as he says, "All right, boys, dinner's served." And he sets down at the table, offering each of you a plate. And he, once again, makes sort of pleasantries. He asks you, so how'd you end up in Fogcastle? Most people aren't very happy about how they get here. Some of them just wander in through the forest and never manage to find their way out. But that, he makes general stuff like that. And if we ever play again, well, you can think about why your character's there. But the dinner passes fairly nicely. There's nice conversation. There's good, fairly simple but hearty and good food. There is, he has a very fine sort of nutty brown beer that he gives out copiously, saying, well, you probably don't want to drink too much because we're gonna have a long night keeping an eye out, but certainly doesn't hurt to have a drink or two to calm the nerves, especially considering what might happen. As he tops off each of your drinks, and the night passes, and as dinner wraps up...
Before the night passes, I do want to ask him about that spot out there in the woods.
Oh.
Is that a hunting spot? Is that yours?
Well, it's not mine. Couldn't say I've seen much of it. Of course, like I said, could be a bunch of shit-nosed kids. I did have a run-in with a couple of kids that were being, well, you know how kids can be. They can be little assholes, trying to stir up trouble. But for the most part, they're not bad. They're just, they're told they should stay inside at night, so they head outside, and to them it's worth the risk.
I mean, this seemed more like one person with a stick or with a staff than a kid or a group of kids.
Yeah, do I get the sense that he's being entirely forthright with me?
Roll an insight check.
Let's see. That is a 10.
He seems like he's telling the truth. He doesn't seem to be trying to lie to you at all. As he says, I mean, I myself, I head that way sometimes, but I'm not exactly keeping an eye out for no fires or anything. But it could be the kids. It could be someone causing trouble. Could be a hunter that was at the edge of the field that was in the forest. It's hard to say, really. But it certainly is a bit suspicious. Wouldn't hurt to keep an eye in that direction tonight.
Yeah. Are the stones still on the ground by the crow?
Yes.
Okay. A question for you. You said you've burned these scarecrows multiple times. Are the burned ones still there in the morning in an ash heap, or are they gone?
Well, that's the thing. They're still there in the morning. The remnants of them, at least.
So they're new.
It's like they just go right back to where they were before. You don't think scarecrows can, have kids, do you? I mean, I'm not a learned man, and I'm certainly not one learned in the ways of things like scarecrows or scarecrow magic. Do you think they're alive?
I couldn't. But we'll find out tonight, I suppose.
Alrighty. The night passes on. You can, Lucian at some point, he sort of heads out. He says, keep an eye out just for a little while as he actually heads out the back door. It looks like you can actually, looking out the sort of back door, you can see he heads in towards the back house, so you can hear him tending a horse, and you can hear the horse sort of gently whinnying. He's only gone for about a half an hour, and he says,
Right, give me 2 seconds. Here, take meds.
okay.
Actually, there you go. Now you're just on speaker, so you can continue. I'll just hear you.
He says that he sort of comes inside. He says, I had to make sure that Blessy was fed and bedded down for the night, you understand. I certainly can't afford to lose a horse, especially not one that's been as good as she has. As he goes about his business, by this point it's pretty much pitch black, and the familiar fog of Fogvale has descended, sort of coating the area in a fine mist. It's not as bad as it is in the city. In the city, some nights you can't see more than 10 or 20 feet in front of you. At least out here, you can barely make out the maybe 200 to 300 feet before the fog becomes a little bit too dense. Let's see. The clock on the mantelpiece rings like 10 times as a small sort of bird comes out and like cuckoo, cuckoo, as he looks at it nervously and says, I reckon it's about time to be hitting the bed. As he turns, that's the wrong one. There we go. He goes to his bed. He gets a couple of blankets. He says, afraid I've only got the one bed, but well, I've got plenty of blankets and some fine pillows. If you want to rest on those, it'll certainly be safe and warm at the very least.
I was planning on staying up the night.
Well, if you want to take,
Yeah, we can take shifts.
if you want to take
If you
shifts,
like.
I usually wake up early in the morning, about 5 or so, to start getting ready for the day. So, as he lays down, I suppose I'll take last shift.
I'll take first shift.
Alright, then I'll go find a spot on the floor. Grab a pillow and a blanket.
Alrighty. You bed down close to the fire. It's still a nice, comforting warmth that sort of bathes over you. The blanket is comfortable. It's fairly thick and heavy. The pillow's soft. And as you close your eyes, first shift begins. Now, Dirk. That's it. That's her name. You start the night sort of looking out the front window. Simple sort of things like that. Okay, make sure. Just moving some stuff in place real fast. It is fairly uneventful. You can, after the night wears on, you can see little more than like a sheet of milky white. As it is essentially just the fog beginning to creep in closer and closer. And then you hear a faint caw, caw, as Brandon Lee begins to caw.
Alright, I make my way outside. Then I nudge Lokshun on my way out. We may have company.
I look up, just see what do I see.
Alright, I make my way out the door and I call Brendan Lee to my side.
Stepping out into the door, you can just barely make out the silhouettes of two humanoid forms that are standing to the east and to the west, which you should be able to actually see them on the map now, which is pretty cool. But
yeah, I like that function. That fog of war is pretty fucking sweet.
They're just standing there, sort of very solemnly, just like statues, unmoving. You can barely make out. Their arms are splayed to the side, and their feet bound together, standing atop a post. Roll a perception check.
Oh shit.
Just me or the bird too?
Everyone outside.
Alright. I
Perception.
got...
Perception, yes.
21.
I got a 10. Bird gets... On that... Wait. 19, sorry. I almost gave him my perception. Bird got a 19.
Looking out into the distance, the fog is just barely through the fog. You actually are slightly disconcerted as you can see what appears to be far off in the distance 3 blue cat's eyes that flash for just a second in the distance up to the north, and then they flare out of life as if they became a sort of a light, and then immediately faded back out.
Cat's eyes were that guy, the old guy, right?
He did have a blue cat's eye staff.
And, like, I remember you using that description for his glasses, too.
Yes, his glasses did catch the light of the fire.
That kind of looks like... And is it by that tree?
It was in the direction of the tree. The fog is too dense to see if that's exactly where it was, but it was in that direction.
I swear that glint looked like that old man's glasses. And
Huh.
did you see?
Interesting. I draw my bow and I'm getting ready. I want to aim a shot at the, I guess, the closest scarecrow just to see if it moves.
All right.
Kind of pump it.
You fire a shot. I'll go ahead and make an attack roll.
All right. Let me see. Attack. I love high dex. Not when I roll a 1 though.
It flies long, as it sort of lands in the in the wheat field behind it, and that's when it doesn't. That scarecrow doesn't move, but as you turn to scan the fields, you don't see those two scarecrows anymore. Well, let me put that one back. Those 2 scarecrows anymore. You actually see what appears to be a dozen humanoid forms that have just sort of begun to appear in the mist.
A dozen?
Yes. All at just the edge of right at the edge of where you can barely make out like their silhouettes because they're in the fog, but there are now a dozen of them, a dozen of these forms that are standing basically just above the field. Some of them a little bit out of the fields and the sort of roadways leading down, but some of them in the fields you can just barely make out. It like rises to their chest and you can just see their splayed arms and their heads. And you hear
them moving.
No, they're all just standing still. They just almost seem to appear into your in your periphery. As you actually hear
I poke at what was your name?
Dirk.
Dirk. And I say, how far out was that?
That's actually a very good question.
Because I might be able to.
Would that be something that like I would notice and remember?
What were you
as
asking?
ranger.
How far out?
Yeah,
How far out was what?
tree line.
The tree line? Several hundred feet. Farther than you can see in the mist now. Maybe 400, 500 feet.
You any good at?
You're talking to the best.
Okay. I just reach out and I touch your shoulder.
I turn invisible. Kick ass.
Say, go see if there's somebody by that tree. Could have sworn I
All right. You start on your mission. However, Laukshun is that it? Lokshun. As he heads out, you actually hear the braying of the horse in the barn. As it starts, you hear these sort of agitated whinnies, like.
I'll go check out the horse while he does that.
As soon as you turn the corner, you can see there is a scarecrow standing directly next to the pins.
Oh.
Having come in while you were at the front of the house, it seems it is coming from behind, which is one of the cool things that I can do with this line of sight crap.
Yeah, I could see you moving tokens, but I couldn't see where they moved to.
There is this, and yet as soon as you eye it, it is standing stock still, but the horse is still angrily, sort of, you can hear it champing and stomping its feet from within. And you hear Lucian call from inside saying, What's going on? As you actually hear the back door open, and he lets out a scream like, I knew it! I knew they were coming! As he staggers inside and slams, you hear the door slam behind him. And as soon as he does that, roll a perception check.
I will roll.
Yeah, just you, because Dirk is on his thing. You see the scarecrow twitch slightly, and its sackcloth head just kind of turns in your direction and stares at you.
Fireball.
All right.
That is the fucking wizard solution to goddamn everything. I fucking love fireball.
Attack it.
Alright, I am level 4, so I only have 1d10. That is a 10 plus 4 plus... Where's proficiency at this level? 2. Does a 16 hit this guy?
The fire arches through the air, lighting up the sort of mist around you, causing a bright orangish glow as it slants into the scarecrow, and the scarecrow immediately comes to life in flames as it sort of flails about wildly, releasing the most terrible squealing howl that you've ever heard in your life. And immediately, all of the other scarecrows in the field come to life and begin charging towards the house, all dozen of them.
Well, fuck.
As you're sort of heading out in the fields, all of a sudden you see a dozen scarecrows, not paying any attention to you, just all converging in on the house.
On the house, not me.
Nope, the house itself.
How are they moving? Aren't they staked to the ground, or like the stakes literally dragging?
The stakes are literally dragging on the ground behind them.
Okay, as soon as they break I'd like to shoot another one with...
I say at this point we go ahead and roll initiative.
Oh god. Oh god.
Alright. So I got a 14. And bird. Initiative takes dex bonus, right?
Yep.
Alright. $14. 9. Nope. 9. Stupid numlock.
Damn nines. Let's see what Lucian rolls.
Damn, those are some fast fucking scarecrows.
Yeah, they rolled real well, and Lucian did not. He gets an 8. Alright. What did Laoshun roll? Oh, there it is. I see what it is. 5 plus 1 is 6. I keep forgetting to check the chat for it. Alright. So we've got our initiative order. At this point,
Actually, yeah, where would I be? Would I be by the door? Would I have made it to that point?
You would have made it. You wouldn't even be on the map at technically this point. You were probably about halfway through the field, so maybe 100 feet away. So you're technically off the map.
Oh shit! I actually dragged myself off the map. Hang on. Let me see if I can fix this. I can. Damn it! Come on, come on. Thank you.
All right. You are able to. You're probably about 100 feet away. Like I said, as soon as you turn invisible, you started heading in that direction. And you did hear a loud as you were about like 100 feet, sort of dodging through the field. You hear a loud as you turn behind you and just see an ignition of orange as Laoshun's firebolt just slammed into one of the scarecrows and set it alight, and it let out a piercing, howling scream, and all of a sudden the scarecrows around you came to life and charged forward. You can see they are essentially they have leapt off their stakes, but they're still bound to it. So it's like it's almost like they've got a stake, the stake strapped to their back, and it's dragging behind them. But they're charging forward, and they do get to go first with a 19. We'll say they use their first turn to get to where they are on the map because they were a little bit off the map. And then it goes to you. Or it goes to Dirk. I probably shouldn't say you. And Dirk, you are currently in the field sort of seeing them run past you. They're not even paying any sort of attention towards you.
Do I get the feeling that they know where I am? Because I'm invisible. Do I need to... Actually, should I roll stealth check?
Yes.
Alright. Now watch, my proficiency failed me. Oh wow, actually that's pretty good. 15.
You are able to, you sort of are amongst the relatively high fields. It's not at the high sort of stalks of the wheat. It's not hard to sort of slink down and hide amongst them. As you can see, one charges within 20 feet of you, but is not paying any attention at all to you. Does not even turn its head your way, just charges straight for the house. Does not seem to pay any attention to you at all. Doesn't seem interested in you at all.
Alright, well then I'm going to move towards the house. I guess I'll use a dash. Would that work? Or is sneaking my action?
No. You are already doing that anyways. So you've still got all your normal stuff.
Alright. Then I will double move my way to the house.
Alright, you were probably about 100, 100 feet away, so you can get within, you move 70 feet?
I have a movement of 30, or 35, so that's 70, so I'm like 30 feet away.
Yeah, so you'd be about right there, or somewhere within these sort of blocks, yeah.
I'll be like right here, I guess.
You charge for the house. You are easily able to overtake the scarecrows that aren't really moving that fast. And it goes to Brandon Lee the Crow.
Oh boy, what do I want the crow to do? These things are dragging shit on the ground, right?
Yes, they are dragging stakes on the ground behind them, now that they've jumped off and started charging.
My commands to my crow, are they, like, telepathic?
They... as far as I know, I think they're verbal, but you could just sort of call it... It's not like he can't hear it. He's within... pretty close to you, probably.
Yeah, but I'm afraid if I like, speak too loud, I'm gonna call attention to myself, break stealth.
But I don't know if they're verbal or if they're telepathic or not. I assume they're probably verbal.
Alright, well, I tell him to, sweep the leg, I guess, and try and take out the post, I guess they're standing on. See if he can just swoop in and take one out. That it would be an attack roll with strength?
Yeah.
Right, yeah, that would not be a beak attack, so does not get +4. He got an 8. No, I'm sorry, he got a 6. His strength is shit.
Your crow ally swoops down. Brandon Lee tries to sort of pull at the stake, but he's a little bit too small. He is not a gigantic crow, but he has a lot of heart as he tries futilely to stop the scarecrow charging the house, is unfortunately unsuccessful.
Let's move him. I guess he'll be on that one.
Alright. The farmer, after that it goes to Lucian, and you hear him call from within the house, saying, what are you doing out there? Get in the house and defend it. We can certainly defend the house better if we're bottling them in. As you can actually hear him slam up against the door and says, we've got 2 behind the house. And you hear him like the sound of dunk dunk as he is stacking stuff up against the back door. And then it goes to Lakshun.
Alright, I'm gonna start moving towards the door. Actually, the one I shot down here.
He is on fire, flailing about. He is pretty much already reduced to ash.
Okay. So I see this one up here. I'm just gonna toss a firebolt at it.
Alrighty, which one? This one? Or that one? Okay. Firebolt it.
Natural 20.
It erupts in flame, dealing max damage, which is, what, D12? And it does double damage against the scarecrow. As it bursts into flame, the scarecrow begins flailing wildly about, angrily sort of throwing burning straw from its gullet, as it doesn't fall to the ground dead, but it does collapse. The stake itself on fire as it flails wildly on the ground. Anything else?
I begin to move into the house.
Alright.
Which I cannot do.
Oh yeah. It's because I've got a line of sight blocker on the door, which you can't technically move through. As the creepy piano comes in. Alright, after that...
What do I see this guy doing?
He's stacking things up against the back door. His face is completely drained of blood. He looks terrified. As he sees you open the door and step inside, he says, I saw 2 more of them out back heading for the house.
What is it they want the house for? They're ignoring us completely.
I don't know what they want anything for.
Did you find anything recently?
I'm just a farmer. I don't find
That is
anything.
the question.
I've never found anything interesting in my life, and if I had, I would have sold it.
Have you sold anything?
No, nothing besides my wheat.
I'll pass.
Alright, it goes to the Scarecrow's turn. The Scarecrows begin moving inwards. You actually hear one, all of a sudden you hear like slamming on the back door. As you can see, as Lucian is trying to pull stuff against it, the door almost bursts inward as he throws himself up against it. You may see like a single straw hand come through, and it pushes inside the door jam, but Lucian managed to slam it shut, and he continues sort of sticking stuff up against it, piling up anything that's heavy up against it. As you are standing there at the house, you see one sort of flits across this window and passes by it as he moves towards the front of the house. And then you hear what sounds like the horse braying as Lucian says, "Blessy, no!" As it sounds like the horse is under attack somehow. These ones also 5, 10, 15, 20, 5, 10, 15, 20, 5, 10, 15, 5, 10, 15, 20.
So this is the one that was burning, right?
Yep, he is. He's not technically dead yet.
Okay.
In fact, he took 24. Let me put down 24. This guy is also burning. Alright. And he is going to... Brandon Lee can try to make an attack against him as he runs past.
Oh, the bird?
Yeah.
Alright. It is +4 with a beak attack. He gets a 14 to hit.
That does hit the Scarecrow.
Awesome. So that is a 1 piercing damage. Doesn't even get the roll.
Alright. The Scarecrows are now charging inwards. 15, 20. So they use their first move to get 20 feet. And then 5, 10, 15, 15, 20. 10. Just letting them all get into place. Alright. They all start converging on the house. After that, it goes to Dirk. They all just ran past you towards the house. You can actually see a couple of, from your vantage points, you can see at the sides of the house, 2 of them are clawing their way up to the roof.
Can I detect any enemies behind me? Is this all of them? That I can see in my, I guess, cone of vision?
Are you using any, like, of the Rangers, like, primeval awarenesses or anything?
No idea what the hell that is. Primeval awareness. Is that a spell?
It is like a ranger ability that lets you determine, like, certain monster types within a distance.
Oh, okay, I finally found it. I didn't know I had it. Okay, let me see real quick. Third level, you can just...
That's the revised ranger. They do have certain abilities to detect. I can't remember if it's primeval awareness or not, but they do have certain abilities to detect certain animals types within miles.
There is primeval awareness, and I can use that, but I think it's just like a 1 mile radius, and it doesn't tell you location or number. So I mean, I'm just gonna be picking up all the scarecrows that are right in front of me if I use it.
Well, right now all you currently see is the scarecrows.
All right.
And you don't see any silhouettes at all behind you or anything. So, what you see in front of you is sort of what you've got.
All right. I'm gonna move backwards, kind of into the wheat a little bit, and I'm gonna make a pot shot at this guy right here.
All right.
Right. Bo, I swear to God, if you fail me now. 19 to hit.
Yes,
And
definitely hits.
Seconds. Give me 2. God damn it. Sorry, I had to find my headphones. Alright, so I rolled what the heck? 19 to hit. Okay, so 1d8 plus 3. 9 damage.
9 points of damage. The arrow arches through the air and slams into the back of the scarecrow as it stumbles forward, still heading towards the house. After that, it goes to Brandon Lee the Crow's turn.
Alright, he is going to go for the same guy that I attacked. And he is going to make a peck attack. Let's see what he does. He got a 10.
10 is not quite enough to hit.
Alright. That would be the bird's turn.
Alright. After that, it goes to Lucian. Lucian is going to make an athletics check to keep the door held as there is still one trying to burst in. Ooh, that's not good. The door actually slams open a bit, and you can see a single strawy arm burst through, and Lucian is unable to get it closed again, as he's able to close it on the arm, but he's not able to get it fully closed. It looks like the back door is just about to break inwards, as it goes to Lakshun's turn.
Alright, I'm going to... From this window, because the tree was this way, do I see any glint since then?
You have not seen any glint since the initial glint. There has not been any new ones.
Alright, I'm gonna run to the back, and I'm just gonna firebolt the arm.
Alright.
I guess to not have disadvantage, I have to be one space.
Well, yeah, from one space away you have advantage, because technically his arm is just there and the door is slammed on it, so it's not able to move it.
19 to hit, 4 damage.
8 points of fire damage as arm catches on fire. It begins to burn as it actually yanks its arm back and the door slams shut behind him. Go ahead.
I look at the farmer and I say, seems pretty. Hope it doesn't burn the house down.
He nods
You
his head.
sure you don't have anything in here?
What you see is what I've got. I'm a simple man.
Insight.
He is, what was your insight?
Fort.
He is absolutely telling the truth. He does not seem to be lying. He's just terrified at the moment. As at this point, there are people slamming on doors and on the windows. However, it goes to the start of the round. The Scarecrow's rounds. Lokshun, I need you to actually roll a d6. Because the ones that are on fire take burning damage at the start of their turn.
3.
So they take 6 points. This one actually, out front, the one that you crit, just falls to the ground. Now a little more than a smoldering ash pile. The other ones are a little bit better off, but they are currently taking pretty significant fire damage. From within the house, you actually hear what sounds like feet sort of pressed up against the wall, as all of a sudden you can tell that the Scarecrows are climbing up the walls, and you can actually hear their heavy footfalls of a couple of them on the roof, as a couple of them have climbed up. You also hear the horse sort of braying, and the man says, Lucian says, "Blessy, no!" And just sort of angrily, actually looks like he's about to throw open the door and charge out. However, the Scarecrows continue converging on the house. One up against this door. You can see they are now at the doors and the windows, and they are absolutely slamming up against. You can see their form just slamming up against the windows. Their sackcloth hands just sort of rattling the window sills. And the front door actually, Brandon Lee gets to make an attack because the one that was next to him continues charging forward.
Alright.
And that one runs to the front door and begins slamming into it.
He missed.
Okay.
Pretty badly.
It does go to you after that.
Alright. Which is the one? Oh. How tall is this fence? Is this thing obstructive?
No. It's only a couple, maybe 2-3 feet tall. Even then, it's just a post.
Alright, I want to stay in the grass. I guess move out of the way here so the well's not in the way, but I want to shoot the guy at the door.
Okay. Yep, that's the one that's been taking some damage.
Alright, where it is. That is a wiener. Damn it. Stop on the table. That is a 23.
A 23 definitely hits him.
And he takes 5 damage.
Alright. After that, it goes to Brandon Lee the Crow.
Alright. He's going to fly over to Doorman. And try to peck his eyes out. Not with a 1.
Unfortunately, Brandon Lee swoops down angrily at the Scarecrow. The Scarecrow pays it little mind, however, he continues slamming up against the door, and it goes to Lucian. Lucian, angrily, screams, "I'll be damned if you're gonna kill my horse! as he actually starts yanking stuff away from the front door, or the back door, grabbing like a fireplace poker. He slams open this back door, and he has to make an athletics check. It's a good athletics check. Wow. All right, I need to alter this little bit. I need select. As he slams open the front door and he charges out with a fireplace poker angrily. There is you are able to Laoxun out the back door. You are able to see there is only one, as far as you can tell, back there, and it is currently one of the ones that you set, or that you obviously set on fire whenever it sort of you set its arm on fire. Basically, when it reached the door, it is sort of flailing about wildly. And Lucian just charges it with the fireplace poker and swings at it with all his might, saying, "You'll be damned if you're gonna hurt my horse!" And he impacts it right into, right upside its head. You can actually see its sackcloth skull crushes inwards a bit as he does a fairly significant amount of damage to it. But after that, it does go to you after that.
Alright, since probably not going to be able to get out the front door, I'm actually going to go out the back with him.
You can see there is one that is at the stable door terrorizing it, but it's just sort of standing at the doorway, leering at the horse. And the one in front of you is hurt pretty badly, and he'd be like over here. Or technically
the ones
over here.
at the front doors, were they doing anything?
They were trying to break in the windows and open the door.
But like this guy's literally just.
That's as far as he's gotten. It hasn't been his turn since he got there.
Oh, okay. Well, then I'm gonna shoot him with another. Set everything on fire.
It definitely hits. They don't have great armor class.
9 damage.
So that's 18 points of damage and sets him on fire.
I'm going to... Actually, which way do I want to go? I'm going to start going this way.
There is one slamming... you come around the corner and see there is one that is pressed up against the window, slamming its arms against it. As best as it can. They don't have a lot of mass in those arms. They are made of straw. But he could potentially break in the windows.
Eventually, okay.
Eventually.
That's my turn. I just look around unless I see blue glint. That's all I can do.
It goes to the top of the round, and the ones that are on fire take fire damage. So roll a d6 for their fire damage.
2.
2. 4 points of fire damage. Not bad. Oh shit. I got an idea. At this point, all the ones on fire should be emitting light.
Should be what?
All the ones on fire should basically be light sources, so
Yeah.
they are all gonna be light now.
There's a lot of fire around here.
They do catch a lot of fire pretty easily. That it's a good thing somebody here can set stuff on fire. 30. Go ahead and do that. Alrighty. So, you should be able to see some changes with the lighting, hopefully. Although probably not too significant since it does have kind of global illumination. But they are emitting some sort of light. After that, it goes to their turn. Dirk, you can see the two on the roof actually move to the chimney, and one stands next to it, and one starts shimmying his way down the chimney into the house. That's all those two are doing.
Was the fire lit in the chimney?
It was indeed. So they're going to have to come down through the fire. But it's certainly not going to be fun to have flaming scarecrows inside your house.
Can I yell?
Yeah, that's a free action.
Huh?
Yeah, you can yell and say it.
Alright, Lokshun, they're coming down the chimney.
This guy is going to attack the windows as he's just sort of slamming up against them. Front door. Holy shit.
Damn.
I rolled a whole bunch of ones in a row. This one right here and this one at the door sort of flail futilely at the window, almost seeming to hurt themselves more than they hurt the structure. However, this one actually lands a solid blow, and you can see a crack forms across the window. This one right here, seeing you turn the corner, he moves towards you, and he is going to swing at you, Lokshun.
Alright.
14 plus 2 is 16 versus armor class.
That does in fact hit me.
And they deal 8 points of damage.
Alright, in response, I will use Hellish Rebuke.
Hellishly rebuke it. Set it on fire.
My finger. And the creature that damaged me is momentarily surrounded by hellish flame. Make a dex saving throw. 14.
Their dexterity's not that great, so... Nope, it fails.
Evil! It catches on fire for 2d. Ooh, 17.
So that's 34 total. So that is almost enough to take it out by itself, as although it is still standing, much of its straw has burnt away, leaving little more than like a vague wooden armature that is sort of flailing at you. However, it does go to these remaining three. This one charges in and is going to start. It sets the the horse's firelight in the barn.
Oh shit! Hold on. That's supposed to be 3d10 because I just. Okay. Hold on. Pass the spell at a high. It is. Yeah, that's. I need to roll another d10.
Make another d10.
Got a 6 on that one.
Alright. That's enough to kill this one, as it goes down in flames, as your Hellish Rebuke has set it alight. And it will get a... boom. Little fire symbol. This one is going to charge in and start attacking the horse. This one is actually going to charge Lucian. And the two that surround him are going to make attacks against him.
Oof.
So a 19 and a 17. Both of them hit Lucian, who immediately collapses under their blows, sort of holding his hands up, saying, "Please don't hurt my horse!" And after that, it looks like Lucian was hurt pretty badly. But it does go to Dirk.
Let's see. Well, it doesn't matter if I stealth because those motherfuckers aren't paying attention to me anyways. So I'm gonna make my way. Let's move 35. These are 5 each cells.
Yep.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And I'm gonna take another shot at the guy at the door. That is an 11.
It does hit.
Oh, cool.
They're not exactly armor clad.
Alright, that is 9 damage.
You're hitting the guy at the door?
Yeah, that guy right there.
That is enough to finish him off as the final arrow slams into his back and he sort of thunk. He makes a couple more futile attempts to bring the door down, but then he collapses against it. His sort of straw hands clutching, clawing at the door as he collapses on the ground. And after that, it goes to Brandon Lee the Crow.
Alright, I tell the bird to check on the horse. So would him moving provoke opportunity? Because he's next to these two?
Technically, they could. However, from what you've seen, they're not really paying that much attention to you or Brandon Lee the Crow.
Okay.
I mean, they've had opportunities to swing at him before, and they have not.
Alright, so I'm gonna have him move. She wants to move another bird 50 feet, so he moved 10, so it's 8, 7, 6, 5, 3, 2, 1. Boom. Alright, I need to just move that right there to see. Good lord, it's breaking me.
Brandon,
Alright.
I'll tell you what Brandon Lee the Crow sees. As Brandon Lee flies around the corner, he does see that, currently, Lakshun is embroiled in standing over the body of one collapsed scarecrow. Lucian is flanked on two sides by two burning scarecrows, and he is collapsed underneath their blows. And one flaming scarecrow is inside the barn, and the horse, and it has set the horse's bedding on fire. The horse is currently pinned in its cage and sort of pressing up, trying to get out, but the scarecrow...
That's down here?
Yes, that's inside here.
Okay.
Let me, should be able to...
Kind of see what he would want to move towards. Yeah, probably inside. Alright.
Yeah, you should be able to see it now.
Oh, good. Alright. So I will have him peck at him.
Peck at the flaming corpse of the dude. Well, the flaming dude. He's on fire, but he's still up.
Okay, okay. I was hoping it was just beating a dead horse, literally. He got an unnatural 20.
That definitely hits.
He takes 1 point of damage.
Alright, 1 point of peck damage. Every little bit counts. This dude is taking pretty serious damage, so that 1 point might really matter. Alright, after that it goes to Lucian, who is collapsed on the ground. So it goes to Lakshun.
Alright. I'm going to run over to where Lakshun is. And this one right next to me is still alive.
That one right next to you is still alive, although he is severely damaged. Much of his straw has burned away, leaving little more than a wooden armature.
Okay, I guess actually I've got to shoot him from here, unless I'm gonna be stupid and take disadvantage. So I'm gonna shoot this guy.
Alright.
And then I'm gonna move there. Natural 1.
Unfortunately, it does not hit as it lances over, flying fairly wide, passing over Lucian's collapsed form, slamming into a small part of the field, and the field actually catches alight.
Beautiful. Okay. So I'm gonna run up next to it. And I'm gonna try to just like stand over Lucian
Okay.
and end my turn.
Roll a d6 for ongoing fire damage against the dudes. How much was that fire damage?
5.
5? Okay. So
That doubles to.
they all take 10 points of fire damage. That's a lot of fire damage. Alright, it goes to the guy's turn, so they are breaking into the house. However, they do all catch on fire whenever they come inside. Dirk, you can see the scarecrows wiggle their way down the chimney. But that's all you see. These two right here are continuing to beat at the windows. Gotta see Duke. Wow, they both really suck. This window cracks underneath the blows of one of them. This window actually bursts inward as it was already damaged before. And the scarecrow sort of is able to sort of slither his way in. Let's see. This one right here is going to swing at you, Laoxun.
Okay.
It's gonna have a D16 here, and this one
a 16 to hit.
a 16 to hit. Yeah.
Yeah, that hits.
This one actually runs past you and pushes open the door into the house.
Interesting.
And you take from the blow just 3 points of damage. This one right here is going to attack the horse. Manages to hit for quite a bit of damage as the horse, its mane is singed, nearly burnt off as the scarecrow begins scratching at it. After that, it goes to Dirk.
Alright, I'm gonna make my way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And I'm gonna fire this guy here. That is a 26 to hit.
That'll definitely hit.
With 9 points of damage.
Nine points of damage. Running towards the house, with that sort of better view as you're moving forward, you can actually see that there are a trio of flaming scarecrows that have 2 that came down the chimney and 1 that burst in through the back door. They're moving about, setting Lucian's house on fire. But it goes to Brandon Lee the Crow next.
Right. Fuck. I guess I'll peck at the guy attacking the horse. Okay. He's not very useful in combat. That is a 21 to hit with 1 damage.
Definitely hits. Yeah, crows are not particularly useful combat buddies. They're good find familiars, but ranger pets, not so much.
Yeah, I figured I had to pick something that fit, though. Makes a lot more sense than a flying monkey.
After that, it goes to Lucian, who's on the ground. It goes to Lakshun. The ones around you are on fire. They are almost, you can tell they are almost dead. Their straw largely depleted. One that did rush in, however, into the house, however, on fire, and you can hear what it sounds like breaking glass and the sound of things being broken in the house.
Okay, I'm going to attack that guy with
I'll say roll a intelligence check.
13.
The guy in front of you, just looking at him, you're pretty sure the fire is going to consume him quite soon. He is
So I'm gonna.
pretty much dead.
Okay, I'm gonna peek into the house.
You see there are, the front window has been broken in, and 3 scarecrows are inside now. Well, 4 scarecrows, technically, 3 of them on fire, and they are moving about, just trashing the inside of this building, setting things on fire and things like that. The one in front of you is the one you have has been significantly damaged as well.
Okay, are they going for anything in particular? Like, are they all digging at the table, or are they just all around mayhem?
Looks like it's all around mayhem.
Alright. Interesting. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I can choose a 15-foot square from me. So let's go ahead and do that. 15-foot cube. So I will do 15. Yeah, just like this entire inside of the house right here. Right there. So all 4. And I'm gonna cast Thunderwave at... So they need to make Constitution 14 saving throws.
Alright, let's see how this goes. So that's 1, pass, 2, fail, 3, pass, 4, pass, because, yep. So 1 fails.
Okay, so it's just half damage and they aren't pushed if they pass.
Alright.
2, that is... 8.
8.
9 plus 8, 17 damage of force damage.
Alright. So, 17 halved, 8, 9, so that's 9.
Oh, sorry, it's thunder damage, not force.
Yeah. Minus 9.
And the one that failed is pushed.
Alright. This is the one that failed. And he's pushed back how much? 10 feet?
10 feet.
Which direction do you want him pushed back? Straight back or to the side back?
Right away.
Alright, he's gonna slam just back up against this guy. And his fire goes back on him. Half of 17 is enough to kill this guy. So he is dead. The scarecrow in front of you in the doorway just is blown away. His flaming straw just scattered across the floor as he's dead. Put a death marker on him. Whoop. He's dead. And this one takes 9. The 2 that went down the chimneys took a very significant amount of fire damage getting inside, so they're hurt pretty badly as well.
Alright.
And then it goes to the scarecrows, and you roll fire damage for the ones that are on fire.
4?
D6.
No, I rolled a 4.
Oh, you rolled a 4? Alright. This guy also dies, because like I said, he was at his last vestiges. This guy that has been being pecked also dies, because he takes 8 damage. This guy, I'm just going to use the same. The guy you thunder waved back also dies, so I'm just using your fire damage that you rolled for him as well.
Okay.
And then this guy is still up. Alright. This one moves, is going to do... Well, he's just setting shit on fire. He starts reaching down and he sets the curtains on fire, sets the floor on fire. This one up here begins sort of trashing the place, just moving around, throwing the table, adding fuel to the fire. This guy who's been stuck behind the window continues trying to smash the window. Let's see, can he... This time he manages to smash the window, and he gets inside. Then it goes to Dirk.
Alright, I'm going to post up by the window. And I guess I'm going to take a... Well... Nah, fuck my spear. I'm going to stick with the bow.
Alright. You might want to take a step back, though.
Yeah. Alright. That is a 15 to hit.
Does hit.
With a whopping 4 damage.
Alright. The arrow buries itself in the back of the scarecrow, and he stumbles to the ground, falls to the ground, and sort of slowly rises up. It goes to Brandon Lee the Crow.
You should pick up something burning.
There is lots of fire.
Yeah, is there anything that he can pick up and carry out of the barn so the barn doesn't burn down?
He can pick up... yeah, he can try to pick up pieces of the burning scarecrow, because it's technically on fire. He can, like, try to pull it out. Or he can try to open the horse's pen and let the horse
pull
out.
it by the chain. Actually, yeah. Not a bad idea. Just let the horse out.
No, you don't really have to roll for that. He can do that.
All right. Well, then he is going to release the horse.
All right. It's a simple, like I said, he doesn't have to roll for it because it's a very simple, just latch mechanism, and he's an intelligent familiar, and he's able to just sort of push open the hasp, and the door slides open as the horse just takes off running out. He manages to free the horse. Goes to Lucian, who's lying face down on the ground. Goes to...
Can I have the bird?
Yeah, the bird can
horse?
continue following him, sort of circling above him.
Alright.
Goes to Lakshun. There's a whole bunch of shit on fire in the house.
Alright.
And the house at this point is mostly on fire as well.
Then I will do... Because, I mean, at this point, these are both in-house. I'm just gonna do another Thunder Wave, but level 2. So, DC 14 con.
Let's see. D20. So that one's passes. This one passes. Next one. D20. This guy fails, and he's definitely gonna die.
Nine damage total.
Alright. This guy is thrown against the hearth and he is obliterated. Pieces of burning straw being thrown across into the hallway, into the hearth. It catches an even brighter fire and begins pouring in. The heat begins pouring inwards. You can see at this point, this house is probably largely awash. It does not look like it's gonna survive, due to the amount of fire that is now within it. But he is dead.
All right. At that point. Oop, I can't. I don't seem to. Oh, okay. I have the wrong selector. Is this guy?
Roll a medicine check. What was it?
12.
Lucian is not breathing. He does not really look any different. He does still have the same color in his skin and all of that. He's still sort of clammy, but as you look down and you sort of assess him, he's lying on his back, not breathing, and you feel no pulse.
Okay, so he's dead.
Wait, who's dead?
That's all I can do on my turn.
Alright. Goes to the scarecrows. They are currently not any on fire at this point. All the fiery ones have dead. The house is awash, so they're actually going to run out. Actually, this one is going, since the house is on fire, they're going to change their stuff to the people. One is going to, this one crawls back out the window, trying to get at you, Dirk, and he's going to claw at you with a 14 versus armor class.
That is a miss.
Alright, and this one is going to, well, he runs out the back door and he tries to hit Lock Chun with a 13 versus armor class.
That is a hit.
Alright. You take 7 points of damage.
I'm starting to look kind of hurt.
Alright. And then it goes to you, Dirk. There's a scarecrow that is menacingly chasing at you now. The house itself is completely... It's not completely in flames, but the fire within it is rising. As you can see, the flames are licking up the facade, now beginning to pour out the windows.
Alright, I'm gonna move back. Probably a provoke opportunity, but who cares? So it's 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
That is a... What is
18
my dog
hits.
barking at? Alright, as you sort of move backwards, he does swing at you for 5 points of damage.
Alright. Yep, that's 6. 5 damage. Okay. And I'm gonna take a pot shot. That is a 25 to hit.
Definitely hits.
He takes 9.
The arrow flies through the air, pierces into its sackcloth face directly between the eyes, and it staggers to the ground, no longer moving. As it is
Bullseye.
dead. And it goes to Brandon Lee the Crow.
I guess he'll... Actually, you know what? Is Lucian conscious?
No. No, he's not.
Fuck, I guess this is something I should have asked earlier, so I guess it's a wash, doesn't matter, I guess he'll attack. I was thinking of something I could say from the house, but I guess not. I didn't exactly scope it out beforehand. That is a unnatural 20
That'll definitely hit for
with 1 point of damage.
the 1 point of crow damage. He's there for moral support as he swoops down. Lakshun, you're hurt, but you are filled with strength as this crow launches itself down at the scarecrow, pecking at its slice.
Is that enough? Is that enough to give me advantage for I guess it's melee attack only. Let's see.
Yeah, it would go to your turn next.
Okay. I'm going to have to risk the fireball at disadvantage. Does a 12 hit it?
12 hits it, yes.
4 damage.
8 points of damage, and it is cast on fire. It alights with a terrible whoosh. As it begins flailing about. It looks like it's hurt pretty badly. Go ahead and roll fire damage because it is his turn.
Alright. I'm just gonna yell, Dirk! Help! 3.
Alright. It is still standing as its flaming form turns towards you, Lao-Chun, and makes a swing with its fire. Oh, it misses with a 1.
The only way I live.
It critically misses as it slams its body up against the door. It is in its wild flailing over the fact that it's on fire. It is unable to even come close to hitting you, and it goes to you, Dirk.
Would I be able to shoot it from here? At an angle? I don't think I could.
You have since you have line of sight. If your token can see it, you can see it.
Well, the problem is the crows also give me line of sight. So I guess I'll just move that way for now.
Well, I can take off the crow's line of sight.
Please. Would help to know what I see. Let's see. 2, 4, 6, 7. I cannot see from there. So would I actually? He's standing by the door. Would I be able to see him from here? Is the door open?
Unfortunately, the front door was not opened. The guy who was trying to break into it died. You can open the front door though.
Is that an action? Actually, I think I can see him from the window. I think I'm gonna be able to shoot him from here.
Alright. Yeah. I mean, he's standing in the doorway, so... And that window is broken in.
5, 6, 7. Alright, so I have to move 1 back, and I still see him. Perfect. Alright. Shoot stuff. That is a 13 to hit.
13 definitely hits.
Alright. He takes 9. Dude, I love this D8. It just rolls 6s all day.
Alright. The arrow flies to the burning house and catches alight, dealing adding extra damage as it hits the fire vulnerable scarecrow. Already damaged from Brandon Lee and Lokshun and on fire. Lokshun, as it's preparing to swing at you once again, an arrow just flies into the side of its head and just falls to the ground, completely dead as you dispatch the final, Dirk, you dispatch the final scarecrow before it can harm your ally. You're left with nothing but the quiet of the night around you, muffled by the sound of the dense fog and the faint crackle as the house goes up in flames. You can go ahead and close the initiative order. Lakshun, Lucian is lying on the ground in front of you. There are scarecrow
I'm gonna
bodies
make my way
burning
to the house.
all around
With my
you.
horse.
And what would you like to do?
I'm going to bring the horse, like, try to collect them, you know.
Roll an animal handling check.
Alrighty. I'm proficient. I am not. That is an 18.
Though you're able to calm the horse fairly well, as it is willing to respond to your commands.
I pick up his body and I put it on the horse.
As soon as you pick him up, you feel as you hold him, there is like as you like put him over your shoulder to carry him, there is like a lump pressed up against you. You can feel something like there's something on his chest that is pressing up against your back as you like throw him over your shoulder.
I stop and I look for it.
Pushing his shirt aside, he is wearing a small leather thong, and at sort of tied to this thong, there is one of those arcane stones that you found with the scarecrows.
This guy. Can I look at it?
Yeah, it's the exact same type of stone. You can make another Arcana check.
I will make another Arcana check. Can I call over? Do you know anything about?
I know nothing.
Oh, okay. That is a 4.
A 4 total?
14.
14? These are transmutation stones. They are used to make constructs. As you can see, not only were the scarecrows constructs, but Lucian was as well.
Does he, when I take it off of him, does he change at all?
He does not change at all. However, he seems to shrivel a bit. As you, again, sort of begin pushing his clothes to the side, and see, much like the scarecrows, he's made largely of inorganic material. It looks like clay in his case.
What on earth? Dirk, get over here.
Make my way over with my, I guess, new horse.
This guy is a god.
I knew something had to be wrong with this picture.
And he's got one of these stones, which is the same things animating the scarecrow.
Makes me think we're bait.
Yeah, I feel
I'm
like
sorry, now. Yeah, I'm sorry, we bit the hook. He's bait.
Yeah. Why do you care so much about the horse?
That's relevant now. Who's our horse? This dude almost got us killed.
Well, let's go find that old guy.
Should we check down by the fire? Should we check down by the fire where that was?
By the yeah, by the
right. All right, saddle up.
All right, you climb atop Blessy, who is Blessy is a very large sort of Clydesdale with a very sweet temperament. She has no problem carrying the weight of both of you on her.
Can I check this thing for its own stuff?
Yes. Roll a perception.
All right.
Perception. That is a 21. Apparently, I'm good at looking.
You're good at looking. As you go over Blessy, you see that Blessy does indeed have a stone that is attached to her halter.
Are you kidding me? This is also...
Should we take the stone off or use it while we can?
Do we trust it? Will it attack us like the...
That is a question I am not qualified to answer.
I yanked the stone.
As soon as you yank the stone off, the horse just falls to the ground, collapsing. It's the magic sort of taken away from it.
Well, as far as I can tell, there wasn't anything real.
I think those lights in the forest were real.
The reality was the friends you made along the way.
Right?
Oh. Let's head that.
Alright.
North we go.
So, I do have since you are traveling in Fogcastle at night, I do have to roll a chance for Bloody Jack encounter, but that's just on a D100. Wow.
Got it.
It's close. At this point, you have to roll a 1 for an encounter with him, but boy, was it close.
All right.
Yeah, goddamn. Roll20's always trying to kill us, man.
You make your way through the cornfields back to the location where you previously saw the fire, and where you saw earlier in the night the flash of 3 lights, like 3 eyes looking at you from the darkness. Heading into the tree line, you can actually immediately smell smoke, as the remnants of a very, very small fire was lit in the exact same place. You can see a couple of footfalls. Roll a percept or investigation check.
Let's see. 18.
8.
Dirk, you can see, especially with your ranger knowledge, you know this fire was extremely small, probably not tall enough to light up anything beyond the sort of small general area, and certainly couldn't be seen from the house behind the wheat. But you do see footsteps, the same 3 marks, the 2 large marks and the small indentation all around the fire, very fresh.
Alright, I want to track them.
You are fairly easily able to track them. They look like they head back farther into the forest for 20 feet, or actually, not farther in the forest. They sort of make a roundabout way, heading back towards the sort of center of the area, back where you have like the bristling boar and place like that. But then they almost seem to disappear, as if, well, you know, as if he might have teleported or flown, but they're just gone, and you know they just disappear.
I call over to Lokshun and point that out to him. Our mystery man disappeared.
I bet he's at that tavern. He said he'd pay us.
Well, let's go collect. Maybe he can tell us what these damn stones are.
I mean, we've definitely seen him around before. So, he's not gonna... Let's go.
Making your way back to the bristling boar, you can see the center of town is fairly raucous. You can hear music from the sort of bottle joints and bars and places like that. There are a few people sort of milling about, but largely people have headed inside the taverns and the inns to enjoy their evenings and enjoy the safety of being indoors in Fogcastle. Heading back to the Bristling Boar, it's a packed house. You can see the barkeeper, Basilicus, is moving to and fro, sort of furiously handing out drinks as the common room of the Bristling Boar is packed. You can only vaguely hear the roaring or the sort of snarl of the animated boarhead above the din of the crowd. There is uh, a there is a like a lute player off in the corner, just sort of faintly plucking away at a couple of strings, and you're sort of looking around, and you don't see him anywhere currently.
I clomp up to the bartender.
He says,
say-
just a minute, sir," as he moves about and sort of hands out a couple of drinks. Now, what can I do for you?
Seen that old man with the cane and the glasses sat over there?
Oh, yeah, he came in about an hour ago or so. Well, he left about an hour before that and came back. I imagine he had some business to attend to and went back up to his room.
He's here.
Oh, yeah. He's been staying here for a while.
With... I think he owes us an explanation.
Well, I mean, he's upstairs in room 8 if you want to talk to him, but don't be causing any trouble now. I don't want to have to kick you out on the streets at night.
I'm rather bloodied right now.
Yeah, you do look like you've been in a scrap, lad. You might want to get that
Man, I
look. You
think
might
he-
want to get something looked at there. There's bound to be a doctor here.
I'll go ask him if he can
If he can what?
point to a doctor or someone.
Of course, of course. Grimble, come check out this man. Basilicus grabs a rather fit-looking elderly man, probably in his 60s, but he's lithe and well-muscled. He looks like he's well taken care of, dressed extremely nicely in a finely tailored suit with a sort of tight striped vest over a white shirt and black breeches. He has sort of slightly unkempt grayed hair, but he comes to you and he says, "Wow, you look like you've seen some shit tonight. Running with Bloody Jack?"
Yeah, you could say.
"Well, I can get you patched up. You don't need to worry about that. You don't have to worry about any charges or anything. You know, we're all just trying to survive here."
That's good.
And he gets a couple of bandages, and he like puts some alcohol on them, like he gets a spirit from behind the bar, and he sort of soaks the gauze or the bandages in it, and he sort of wraps up your head, and he gets you fairly well stabilized, doing a pretty good job in healing you for 5 points of damage.
Okay, I'm at half health.
But Basilicus says, "I'm afraid all the rooms are taken, but if you can find a spot to lay down in the common room, you're more than welcome."
Thank you very much. I turn to Dirk. Wanna go say hi to this guy?
Let's go meet our new friend.
Alright, I tried.
Alright, you trudge upstairs, passing room 1, 2, past room 4 and 5, all the way to the end of the hall, room 8. What is your approach? Do you just do you knock? Do you open do you just push in?
No,
Yeah, we'll try diplomacy at first.
You
But I have my bow out. I have my bow and an arrow out.
you raise your hand and you rap on the door, and you just hear a voice that says, "Come on in." And the door just sort of eases open in front of you. Stepping into the room, there is a fireplace with a fairly high fire burning, and you can see the old man is seated at a round table in the corner. The light of the fire catches in his his blackened glasses and glints in his cat's eye staff. And he's sitting very casually facing the door. There are 2 seats also at the table, as he says, there are 2 seats, 2 chairs, sitting at the table, at the opposite end of the table. He says, "Why don't you come in and have a seat, boys?"
You cut out for me.
He says, "Why don't you come in and have a seat, boys? I think you've earned that much, wouldn't you say?"
I walk over to the back of the chair, but I stand there.
Suit yourself, friend.
I'll walk up at the table and I just put the 3 stones that, like, a stone from one of the scarecrows, the stone from the guy, and the.
He sort of smiles a little bit and says, "Very, very good, although I hoped that you would figure it out sooner. But still impressive nonetheless. You're the first one to manage to figure it out."
So that was you.
Of course it was me.
Any
What
particular
exactly was
reason
the
why?
purpose of this? Yeah.
I was looking to see to find someone who could figure it out. You see, I'm something of a businessman. Something of an entrepreneur, I guess you could say. I myself am looking for people that could potentially work for me. Now, of course, I'm looking for the best to work for me, and I need people that have a very particular set of skills. Certainly to be able to fight, not only to be able to take care of themselves, but to be able to figure things out, to be able to think for themselves, which it looks like you have done. As I said, fairly impressive. The first ones to actually figure it out.
And
not the
how
first
many
ones
of
to
these
try.
Prospective employees have gone to that house before.
Oh, nearly a dozen. Nearly a dozen. All have failed. None have died, however. I'm not a murderer.
What about Lucian?
Lucian? He was never alive in the first place. He was a creation much like the scarecrows.
Okay, because people were saying, I mean, is the bartender in on this? Because everyone else was saying that he looked lively and well until just a month ago.
A simple ability to modify memories, my friend. Just as I gave that golem memories, I'm able to alter others. They've never met that man in their life before last month. But they believe they have.
Interesting.
It's a pretty cool trick.
Can I do an insight check on that?
Sure.
Natural 20.
Seems like he's telling the truth.
Hey, I relax.
Yeah, I put the bow away and I sit down.
Now, I can understand why you
So what
may
is it that-
have some sort of trepidations, or maybe some sort of reservations. But I assure you, I am no monster. I am really interested in helping people above all things, although I hardly have the time or ability anymore. You see, there was one point in my life where I was quite the investigator. Very good at what I did, but I am unfortunately old, and at this point, he points up at the glasses, basically blind. I can't do what I used to. I can't help
Actually-
people.
It was the glasses that I think gave you away last night.
He just sort of smiles a bit, says, "Astute of you. Very astute."
Yep, you're the only person I know that caught the glare of a fire like that, even though you tried to keep it.
He says, "And that is exactly why I'm interested in hiring you. As I said, I used to be an investigator. I used to help people, no longer able to do so. And so I'm looking for people that would work for me, that would be willing to take on jobs I can no longer do. I am a man of some, was a man of some wealth, but I can assure you that you will be paid handsomely for the jobs you complete, and of course I will make sure you have an estate to stay on, if you will work for me, as, well, I suppose, investigators."
I look at Dirk.
Who would we be investigating?
Well, currently nothing. I would find jobs and then I would pass them on to you.
We'll see.
I'd be willing to consider it.
Well,
Consider me on board.
wonderful, wonderful. I'm glad this test was successful. He holds out his hand to you, offering to shake your hands. My name is Charles Fitzwilliam Cole III.
Dirk Cormier. Or Cormier, however you pronounce it.
Just told me Lakshun.
Well, Dirk and Lokshun, he sort of reaches down next to his chair and sort of rummages through his bag, and he produces a contract. He says, "You're more than welcome to read through it. It's all standards. If you want to hire a lawyer, I can certainly suggest one, but if you're willing to trust me, all this states is that while under my employ, and living upon my estate, as you will be allowed to do, you will simply take 1/2 of the money that I make for these jobs." If that...
Wait, can I detect magic on the contract that he hands us?
Sure. Did you cast Detect Magic? It is
Yeah,
not enchanted at all.
good.
He's not
Honestly,
he's
I
not
need to-
trying to, or you can make an intelligence check too,
Alright. I'll do that.
or
Straight
both
intelligence?
of you can, because both of you have are looking at it.
Straight intelligence?
Yep.
That is an 18.
Just sort of glancing at the contract, it's filled with legalese, but as far as you can tell, it is pretty much what he says. You would be working in his employ. He would pass jobs onto you. He would keep basically a 50% finder's fee, and the other half would go to you and the group. And also, you would be allowed to basically live on his estate. That is just out. Well, he'll show it to you, but you're also entitled to basically lodging.
Okay. Seems like a pretty good deal.
Well, I'm glad you think that, Laoxun. I see no need to wait about right here. We can head to my estate immediately. It's not too far. It is outside the city, a couple of miles. But, well, he stands up, sort of surprisingly jauntily, and walks down, basically passes by you, saying, "Come on now, no time to dawdle."
Alright. I give Dirk one last look. Good, bad.
I kind of hold my thumb out to the side. Like, not thumbs up, not thumbs down, but just like pointing to the side.
That's
He passes down the hallway, the sort of loud thunk, thunk, thunk of his cane on the wooden floors as he descends downstairs. He throws a coin at a sort of basilicus, sort of flipping it in the air, and it lands on the counter. He says, "I won't be needing that room for the night, but here, let someone have it on the house," and heads back, stepping out into the darkness. He leads
Does
you...
the contract say the guy...
Say the what?
The contract that he gave us say his...
It cut out as soon as after his.
What is the guy's name? Is it on...
Charles Fitzwilliam Cole III. It does have to say his name on it.
Do I recognize that name?
Roll a history check.
Actually, I'll roll a history check too. For that. I like this dice. Or die, whatever the fuck. I got a 17.
The Cole family is something of fairly well known. They were previously very rich, but over the years and generations, bad investments left them with little more than a name and a crumbling estate. And as far as you can tell, nobody, after a generation, nobody's really heard much of them for a generation or two. They haven't been major players in the goings-on of Fogcastle. But they used to be,
Okay,
they used to be a big
just
deal.
As I passed down the stairs, past the barkeep, I just ask if he knows that man's name.
He,
Who's that man's what?
the bartender says, he always just said he always just called himself Charlie.
Okay.
It's like, he had coin and we don't ask questions. He, Charles Fitzwilliam Cole
That's what I like
III
to hear.
leads you down the path.
Now, I did see that I thought he was being pretty honest, so I'm gonna be walking out after him.
Yeah. He indeed, yeah. As far as you can tell, he's been completely honest, and like I said, as you could tell, the contract you signed was 100% legit. He wasn't trying to trick you or anything, or sort of trying to screw you over in any way. But he walks down the path saying, beautiful night, isn't it? Well, as beautiful night as a Fogcastle night can be. It's lovely out here outside of the city.
It's a beautiful night to be inside, I'd say. Let's keep walking.
Well, you're certainly not wrong. It's hard to believe how light the fog is outside the city. And of course he's saying this, the fog, you can't see more than like 100, 200 feet, but that's, compared to what's inside the city, that's a long distance. You pass by like a sputtering gas lantern. There's like a shadowy form beneath it that holds out their hand and says, can I just get a coin for somewhere to stay for the night? Charles reaches in his pocket and tosses him out a small coin and says, get yourself something to eat, friend. And continues on his way. The journey is fairly long. It takes, you spend probably nearly 45 minutes walking. As he's walking beneath, he talks to you a bit about his family. He talks to you a bit about his estate, saying, I'm afraid the estate is a bit run down. Hasn't had a lot of upkeep these past years. I myself don't live out anymore. I live within the city. I have business to attend to, and that is where I will be staying. However, you do have free reign of the estate, and I do have a servant that works there, Moses Primrose. If you need anything, you can be sure to talk to him, and he can get back to me, or he can get it himself. He has my full endorsement, as do you now. He heads to a fairly darkened area, and you see coming out of the mist, like, a large set of, like, brick walls, and a large wrought iron gate that is overgrown with vines. And, as Charles comes up to it, he sort of presses, like, shakes it, says, Moses, let me in! Your master has returned. And they sort of, after he waits about 10-15 minutes, a grumbling halfling sort of comes to the door and opens it, saying, yeah, come on in, boss. And you are allowed entrance to the Cole estate. And you can see it is dilapidated. At one point it was probably grand with beautiful gardens and a beautiful stonework, but you can see like part of one of the wings has collapsed inwards completely. The grounds are completely overgrown. There is like a water feature that is now dried up and crumbling. He lets you into the main hall and it stinks of like mildew and rot. He says, it's not much to look at, but, you know, it is somewhere to stay and it is safe, and I assure you, the quarters are in much better shape than here. The quarters that you will be staying in, while a bit stark, are certainly not leaking and certainly not as dilapidated as this. And he leads you upstairs to the second story landing, to the second floor of the west wing. And this is a little bit has better upkeep. It's dry. It doesn't smell like sort of mildew. Everything is covered in dust, but it is at the very least, a safe place. And he shows you to a suite of rooms that you can stay in. He once again sort of apologizes, saying, "I do apologize for the state of the building, but if you wish, we can work on, as we gain some money and some clout. There's certainly no reason why this can't be quite a fine headquarters. In fact, I do have a little bit of money set to the side. If there's anything you want done to the house, I'll even throw it in as a signing bonus, I guess you could say." And with that, he sort of smiles and says, "Welcome to the Coal Detective Agency." He turns on his heel and he leaves. And I think we can end it right there.